Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Letitia Wallace begins now.
Good evening, everyone. For the first time since Tasmania's borders reopened, a COVID-19 case is being treated in the ICU. But as the virus wave continues to impact businesses, union bosses have slammed the latest support package, saying there is nothing to protect workers.
For Pilgrim Coffee, opening Tasmania back up has not been the lifesaver it hoped to be. Initially, for the first couple of days, we were nice and busy. Since COVID's gone completely out of control, it's an absolute disaster. We're about 58% down compared to January last year. A new support package was announced yesterday to aid struggling businesses since the borders reopened, with up to $5,000 available to those impacted by COVID-related downturns or staff losses due to infection and isolation requirements. However, the coffee shop owner says despite a major 12-month revenue drop, his business hasn't technically lost enough since December 15 to be eligible. We're on a bare bones crew. If too many get sick, we'll have to close down. Critics saying there simply isn't enough support out there for employees left jobless.
There is nothing for workers who just have got no hours now because the business they work for has had to shut down.
There was nothing in that support package for workers. There are a huge number of Tasmanians at the moment who are losing shifts, and instead they're faced with spending hours and hours, days and days at home, not able to earn money to keep a roof over their head.
The state government says the additional support is further evidence of its commitment to supporting the business community as we adjust to the rapidly changing environment. While close contacts or casual workers with no leave can access the $750 pandemic isolation leave, Unions Tasmania says more needs to be offered.
What we're seeing from government is little piecemeal introductions, a little bit here, a little bit there. Let's cut to the chase, acknowledge that we've got a problem, that we have an exploding virus that is creating huge disruption for workers, and support them.
Meanwhile, Tasmania has recorded its first COVID-19 case in ICU since the borders reopened and restrictions eased. 22 cases are now in hospital, with 10 being treated specifically for COVID-19 symptoms, while a total of 1,139 cases were recorded in 24 hours to 8 p.m. yesterday. Ruby Kamain, 7 Tasmania News.
The border between Queensland and New South Wales has come down for the first time in more than a year. The barricades, police and checkpoints are no longer needed after the rules changed at 1 o'clock this morning. Anyone is free to enter Queensland without a negative test, regardless of whether they are vaccinated or not. Investigators have determined the fatal fire at Humanville was accidental. Police say a 56-year-old woman died in a blaze that destroyed her unit on Sale Street yesterday afternoon. Details regarding the cause are expected to be revealed tomorrow. A report will be prepared by the coroner. Hundreds of people have gathered at Launceston Civic Square to rally against COVID vaccines. The protest was held by members of national organisation Reclaim the Line, who spoke about the risks of vaccines, arguing they are not safe for children. The event coincided with similar rallies across the country today. A Launceston family is pleading for help after their teenage daughter fell ill after receiving the Pfizer vaccine. Faith Ranson has been in and out of hospital and suffers almost daily tics after experiencing what a leading doctor admits was an adverse reaction to the vaccine.
From a happy and healthy teenage girl to this. Faith Ranson received the second dose of the Pfizer vaccine in August last year.
3 days later, I woke up one morning to go to school and I started feeling really unwell. I didn't feel right, like something just wasn't right, and I was in a lot of pain.
What followed was months of doctor visits and specialist appointments trying to get to the bottom of the 16-year-old's pain.
It evolves the whole time. So now we've got, nausea, huge weight loss. She just can't keep anything down.
Her parents, both vaccinated, received confirmation from the Tasmanian Specialist Immunisation and Allergy Clinic, which investigates adverse effects to COVID, stating there is no question Faith has had a delayed reaction to the second Pfizer vaccination.
Everyone just took a step back didn't want to deal with it. You know, we were made to feel like it was all in her head. I don't know how you can fake the tics like she gets them sometimes, you know, and to tick for 3-4 hours is a long time.
Faith hasn't been eligible for the federal government's COVID vaccine claim scheme because she doesn't have one of the 7 clinical conditions identified. She's currently on a long waiting list at the Royal Children's Hospital in Melbourne.
They have paediatric neurologists over there that specialise in kids, and there's also, they're a lot more aware because they've been in the grips of COVID and everything for so long now. The feeling is they are more equipped than here to handle it.
Up until January 9 this year, more than 44 million doses of COVID vaccines have been administered and less than 100,000 adverse events were reported. The state's peak medical body says its stance remains the same.
So mild adverse events are fairly common. Serious adverse events are very rare. And so, you know, the risk of COVID is much greater, I would say, than the risk of an adverse, a serious adverse reaction. And so I would encourage all parents to get their children vaccinated.
Once graced by tennis legends Kim Clijsters and Serena Williams, the Domain Tennis Centre is this weekend playing host to a tournament with a difference. The Hobart Out Tennis Club's annual tournament is taking place with LGBT plus players coming together to enjoy their love for the sport in an inclusive space.
Serving up some serious competition. The Hobart International might not be happening this year, but the courts are still being used days out from the Australian Open. The Out Tennis Club's annual tournament is underway, with LGBT plus and ally players taking centre stage.
Just come in, be their authentic and open selves, and just be able to play tennis and know that they're going to be accepted and loved for who they are.
Quite competitive, a lot of great players out there, so it's a good, you know, competition level.
70 players from across the country on court for the event.
One of our open players playing in Sydney at the moment actually represented Lebanon in the Davis Cup. We go from the open and A singles and doubles all the way through to people who are playing in the tournament for the first time.
Also helping the community indulge in their passion for sport in a welcoming environment, something they haven't always received.
Can't necessarily be open in our communication unless we get a sign or a signal first from the other person that it's going to be okay.
I started to feel uncomfortable, I think, in my teenage years, so I sort of drifted away from it.
Prior to her alienation, Gina dreamed of playing at Wimbledon. The inclusive nature of this tournament helping rediscover her passion.
It brings the age range together too, because tennis is that kind of sport, I think.
As for how they're playing?
Yeah, I'm going okay so far. Won the first doubles, won the first singles.
Enjoyed it, had some losses, but basically just having a great time.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
The state government says yesterday's wet weather may have played a role in the crowd numbers for day 1 of the 5th Ashes Test. People once again queued outside Blunston Arena today as play resumed this afternoon. While yesterday sold out, the official attendance figure was just over 9,000, well below the 14,000 capacity. Despite the lower than expected figure, Premier Peter Gutwein says there weren't many spare seats to be seen, confident Tasmanians will turn out in force over the coming days. In the NBL, the Jack Jumpers have been given a boost with 2 upcoming matches moved to MyState Bank Arena. A revised fixture for rounds 7 to 11 has been released, with 5 games to be held in Hobart over 17 days. The New Zealand Breakers will play 2 home games against the Jack Jumpers at the venue on January 19 and 30. Tasmania will also host blockbuster clashes against South East Melbourne, the 36ers and Sydney Kings. Melbourne United's Chris Goulding has made history, reaching 5,000 NBL points in a hard-fought win over the New Zealand Breakers in Tasmania.
Hand in the face, try stopping that.
You can't. You can't.
The final score, 89-78. Both teams will back up again on Sunday, facing the Illawarra Hawks and Sydney Kings.
Hobart reached 26 degrees today, Launceston 29, Burnie and Devonport both 23. Bushy Park had the state's high of 30 degrees, Grove 28, Lowhead, Friendly Beaches, Laowini and Flinders Island all 24, with a top of 21 degrees at Strawn. From the satellite we can see extensive cloud over the state today with thunderstorm activity about the central and lower east. On the bigger picture, cloud about the east and southeast coast of the mainland with storm clouds over northern WA. Moving on to tomorrow now, and the chart shows a trough to the east of Tasmania with a cold front approaching from the west. On the waters, west to southwesterly winds at 15 to 25 knots, tending southerly up the east coast, swells up to 2 metres. And there's a severe weather warning for the east coast and Midlands areas, as well as parts of the upper Derwent Valley, southeast, northeast, central north and the Central Plateau. A road weather alert is in place for those same districts. Partly cloudy in Hobart tomorrow, looking at a top of 23 degrees. A possible shower for Richmond, 26, ooze 30. Partly cloudy in the north, Launceston 26, Devonport 23, with a possible shower at Deloraine. Burnie sunny and 23, partly cloudy conditions for Strawn and Curry. St Helens, Swansea and Whitemark, all with tops of 22 tomorrow. UV extreme 11s across the state. Taking a quick look into next week now, Monday showers about the west and developing about the east in the afternoon and evening, mostly fine elsewhere. Tuesday, more showers about the west, far south and northeast of the state, with more showers developing about the north in the evening. And Wednesday, mostly fine, apart from light showers about the north, east and southeast. Looking to the mainland now, with showers and a possible storm for Darwin tomorrow, a top of 32 degrees. Brisbane, partly cloudy and 33, with tops of 29 for Sydney, Adelaide and Melbourne. And finally, a quick look at the current conditions across Hobart, Launceston and Devonport. And Letitia, that's all in weather.
Thanks so much for that, Britt. And that's all your news for this Saturday evening. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a lovely evening. Good night.